And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Ariel Garten, the founder of the Muse meditation device. Really excited to have her on today. We're going to talk about this awesome new cutting edge technology. And we'll kind of also just bring it back down to the basics of meditation. What is it? What are the benefits? What's happening in your brain and how to actually apply it? Ariel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. My sincere pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone.
Excellent. Well, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and how did you make this journey into meditation? And then what made you want to come up with this new technology to enhance that?
Sure. So, my own background is a training in neuroscience. So, I was fascinated by the brain and how it works. I then became a psychotherapist and began dealing with patients every day, helping them shift their own mental state and recognized how difficult it was. And meditation was a skill that I was taught as something to use inside of my practice with my patients, but I would teach my patients to do it and they would rarely actually start the habit. So it became this really frustrating process of teaching someone to meditate and then not actually seeing the benefits rolling out into their life. I, at the same time, was working in a research lab with Dr. Steve Mann, and he had
Mhm.
an early brain computer interface system. So, using EEG electrodes, we could track your brain waves and then turn that brainwave activity into sound. And we really had this aha moment, myself and my co founders of Muse, Chris and Trevor. We had this aha moment that if we can make this invisible, intangible process in your mind visible and tangible, maybe we could apply that to meditation. Maybe we could actually help people hear what was going on inside their mind while they meditated. And in doing so, actually get people to start and maintain their meditation practice if they could get real feedback and have real data from their brain. And that's
Got it.
how
So
Muse was born.
cool. So you had this kind of biofeedback to kind of help you distinguish if you were in a good kind of brain wavelength state, so to speak.
Exactly.
And then
So
how does that sound compute? So like is it like what's the wavelength in your brain that's supposedly good and how does it know that you're there and how does it do all that connection back and forth?
Sure. So, the old school approach to doing biofeedback or neurofeedback on meditation is just to look at your band. So, if you're in beta band, you're thinking and your brain's all over the place, you're likely not meditating. If you're in alpha, you're seeing an increase in meditation. And if you're seeing some theta, then there's even more meditation. That was the old school way of doing meditation. At this point, we've now taught literally hundreds of thousands of people to meditate using Muse. And so we use a machine learning approach. And we have an algorithm that understands when you're in focused attention versus when your mind is wandering. So it analyzes every aspect of your brainwave activity at that moment and knows if you're specifically in focused attention, which is the fundamental of a focused attention meditation, or if your mind has wandered and is distracted. And what we do is we turn that into a sound that's very easy to understand that it's your mind. So when you're focused, the sound is quiet. And when you're distracted, you hear a storm pick up. It's like, my mind is stormy. Oh, okay, let's bring
Ah.
it back to calm. And when you focus, it calms again. And when your mind gets distracted on a thought, oh, mind is stormy, then bring it back down to calm.
It's interesting because I find a lot of people, and even myself, when they're doing a meditation, one of the first things they kind of think to themselves is, "Am I doing this right? Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure." There's kind of this hesitation of is this all wrong? So I kind of like the fact that you get a little bit of a feedback. And so let's say you're using the device, right, and you get the storm clouds coming in. What should be the focus? Like, what should that switch be to bring you back on track?
Sure. So you bring your attention back to your breath. So
Mm.
a focused attention meditation always has a neutral anchor. It could be your breath, it could be a word, it could be a part of your body. Breath tends to be the easiest because your breath is always there.
Always
And
there,
by
right?
simply counting your breaths, you're bringing yourself back to a neutral anchor. You're taking your mind out of your wandering thoughts and into a place that is neutral and intentional, because
Okay.
most of us spend our life just wandering in our thoughts. Most of us just spend our life with a mind, with thinking that just keeps going, and we assume it's supposed to be that way. But when you actually start a meditation practice and recognize that you can identify when you're thinking and choose to take your mind away from there and put your attention on something else other than your thoughts, at that moment, you fundamentally change your relationship to your thinking. You fundamentally can now choose the contents of your mind. And since most of the things in our mind are negative, repetitive, not particularly helpful, when we're able to actually have choice over the contents of our own mental space and how we attend to it, you can dramatically shift the amount of stress, negativity, anxiety, etc. in your life.
Okay, very interesting. All right, so now someone's coming into this, they're like, hey, I haven't even started meditating at all yet. So what does meditation look like for you? Is it just kind of what you kind of implied earlier, where you're just bringing that anchor, bringing that focus or that anchor back to the breath, and you're just focusing on that while you breathe in and out throughout the nose? Is that pretty much it, to keep it simple for the listeners?
Totally. So that is the basis of a focused attention meditation. There are lots of different forms of meditation. A focused attention is the most common. And what you're simply doing is you're putting your attention on your breath. Your mind will eventually have a thought because all of us have thoughts. It's okay. You then notice that you have that thought. And instead of following the thought and thinking about your grocery list or your husband or whatever, you choose to say, nope, I'm going to let that thought go and bring my attention elsewhere other than my thinking. I'm going to bring my attention back to my breath. And you just do this very simple activity over and over again. And the simple activity triggers those profound results by the fact that you are actually now shifting the relationship to your own mind.
Interesting. Okay. And so it's okay. You shouldn't beat yourself up if your thoughts go off. Just kind of recenter it back, be the observer of that. Like there should be no shame or any of that kind of feeling if you can't quite do it or you can't quite stick on it.
Exactly. None of us are good at meditation at the beginning or even halfway through or even at the end.
Yeah.
We all have thoughts and that's okay. You're not trying to get rid of your thoughts. You're trying to make yourself aware of them and increase the choice about what you do with those thoughts.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So what's the minimum dose to get some benefit? So if someone's coming in, is 5 minutes enough? Like what do you recommend as a beginner to kind of see some benefit, but make the step to commit pretty easy?
Yeah. So with studies with Muse, we've looked at 10 minutes of meditation per
Hmm.
day and at 10 minutes of meditation over 6 weeks. In trial studies, we've been able to see improvements in your relationship to your body. So less self-reported headache, nausea, etc. We've
Yeah.
been able to see improvement in cognitive function as measured by the Stroop task and go, no-go
Mm.
tasks, improvement in inhibition, and obviously a decrease in stress, an improvement in calm.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
in a lot of the studies in the literature, they look at 20 minutes a day, but 20 minutes a day is a lot to meditate for a novice. So, the best amount for you to meditate right now, if you've never meditated, is whatever amount you can bear it for
Okay.
initially. That could
Okay.
be 3 minutes, that could be 5 minutes. You just want to start and try to
And
do it
could
consistently, just five
could
minutes a
5 minutes
day.
be done twice a day?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. And what's the goal wavelength that we want our brain to be in during this meditation state?
So there's, as I said, the old school way was to look at a goal wavelength.
Yeah.
Now it's no longer so much about the goal wavelength. It is about the state that you are in, and our brains are much more complicated than simply being in alpha or simply being in beta.
Okay.
What we see when you meditate is a significant increase in alpha activity, and also sometimes an increase in theta coherence.
Okay.
When it's not also just as simple as alpha because alpha peak frequency changes as you age.
Okay.
So when you're young, you have the most amount of alpha at around 10 and a half hertz, let's say, quite fast. As you age, your alpha peak frequency slows down. So your alpha peak might be at 11 hertz, 12 hertz. And so as you engage in meditation practice, some of what you might be looking to do is both to increase your alpha activity and potentially to decrease your alpha peak frequency to a faster wave. So it's a lot more complicated once you start looking at the nuance of it.
Okay. All right. Got it. And then what's our active wavelength state when we're just totally alert, doing stuff and working throughout the day?
Again, hard to say.
Hard to say.
When you're active and engaged, you tend to be in beta waves when you're thinking,
Okay.
but being in flow has a slightly different brainwave
Mm-hmm.
characteristic. And we also have different brainwaves that we emit from different parts of our head.
Okay.
So, high theta frontal midline is going to be associated with really high attention. But high theta from another part of your brain is also associated with mind wandering and ADHD.
Okay.
So it's,
Okay.
it's nuanced.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. And so how's the device grabbing all this intel? So I know it's a device you put on, I think you guys have a Bluetooth connection now, correct?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is 4 channels of EEG data. So it kind of slips on just like a pair of glasses. For those of
Okay.
you looking at the YouTube, you can see the device now.
We
For
have it
those of
on
you,
video, guys. And if you're
yeah,
listening on the podcast, we'll put the YouTube link below if you want to see the actual demo.
yep. Or you can go to choosemuse.com/welcome. We also have videos there that show you what the device looks like. And so there's 2 channels of EEG data on the forehead and 2 behind the ears. And so
Okay.
that's enough to track your brain waves associated with focused attention versus mind wandering. And then that data is sent to your smartphone or tablet where it interprets your brain activity and lets you know when you're in the meditation zone and when you're not. So you're getting this beautiful guided feedback during your meditation. And then after the fact, you see data, charts, graphs, scores, things that actually show you moment to moment what your brain was doing and let you see your improvement session on session.
Okay, that's really cool. Now, when you're doing the Muse, you have the device on. Is there any concern at all from you with the Bluetooth radiation that's connecting the headset to the phone or the smart device?
So the Bluetooth antenna faces outwards. So the
Hmm.
radiation is going out towards your phone. It's
Okay.
Bluetooth low energy. So, I mean, the amount of radiation that's coming off there is infinitesimal relative to even having your phone on the table.
Oh, good. That's good. Excellent. All right. So we have this device on, right? We're utilizing it. What do you notice as correlation with the device? Meaning, like if I'm eating diet changes, certain supplementation, I've noticed some patients of mine that have done the Muse device before and they've done magnesium and L-theanine and different nutrients. They've noticed improve Muse scores. What associations have you guys made just on your own or clinically in practice with your patients?
Oh, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. That's super cool. Definitely, we notice when people start to meditate, they start to improve more habits in their life. So, this is actually something that you see in the meditation literature that when somebody
Yep.
starts a meditation practice, it then becomes easier to adhere to the other things that you're trying to do
Hmm.
because you become more mindful and you become more intentional. So, the suggestion there is that you are then more likely to take your supplements. You're then more likely to help, improve your sleep patterns. One of the things that we see when people start musing is that they report better sleep. And that they use Muse before they go to bed in order to improve their sleep. So we haven't actually looked at what are the things that make your meditation better, but we've looked a
Okay.
fair amount at what are the things that when you meditate also seem to be getting better in your life and in your health. And
Got it.
they're vast.
Got it. So you're looking at Muse and then the effect benefits of it versus, hey, these things over here may actually help make that Muse session better.
Yeah, and we
Right.
have
Okay.
a number of studies running. So there have been over 200 published papers using Muse, both as a clinical grade EEG and a meditation tool. And the Mayo Clinic recently ran a study with breast cancer patients awaiting surgery. And they saw that using Muse through their surgery process was able to decrease the stress of surgery, improve their fatigue and quality of life. And now Mayo Clinic is looking at this relative to breast cancer patients going through chemotherapy because they're interested in understanding the impact of meditation with different forms of other interventions, be it surgery, chemotherapy, et cetera. And they're also looking at a number of other disease states in studies using Muse to see how meditating with Muse can improve the outcome of those states.
Very cool. And so, what was your experience like with other neurofeedback devices while you were a clinician seeing patients? Did you have a lot of experience with those devices? And then did you feel like, this could be better, or we need to make something more portable for patients? What was your experience like with that early technology? And then how did it morph with the newer one?
So, as a clinician, I didn't use neurofeedback devices, but I had
Hmm.
experience with biofeedback devices,
Oh, okay.
and definitely felt that they gave interesting information, but that they didn't actually give information about the brain. They might tell you what your
Hmm.
heart rate is doing, what your galvanic skin response is, but all of those are downstream effects of what probably was initiated in your own mind. The anxious thoughts, the triggers that were mental that then ramp the body, that then ramp the mind in this feed forward way. So, we saw that there was a great opportunity. It was really at the beginning of the tracking movement where you had wearables that track your sleep and your steps, but absolutely nothing that tracked your brain. And so we were able to develop Muse as an EEG that would track your brain during meditation. And then since then, we've added more biofeedback methodologies to the same device. So in the Muse 2, you have EEG to give you feedback on your brain. There's accelerometers and gyroscopes to give you feedback on your body. There's a breath sensor, so you can get feedback on your breath rate and train yourself for different breathing exercises. There's a PPG sensor to track your heart rate. And so you can actually hear the beating of your heart like the beating of a drum. and learn to tune your interoception, your understanding of your own internal state, and to know when your heart is increasing and decreasing. It can help you train your heart rate variability. So we've, piled on a whole bunch of biofeedback methodologies on top of the neurofeedback as we've been on the path of creating and releasing Muse over the last 6 years.
Cool. So biofeedback would be more things related to heart rate, breathing, where neurofeedback is more biofeedback specific to the brain, wavelength, that kind of stuff. Okay, good. That makes sense. How does this correlate to like devices that are HRV, heart rate variability, which a lot of people like the M-Wave devices that kind of connect heart connection to the brain and that coherent state, that coherence we hear of that helps with parasympathetic kind of repair and stress reduction. How do they connect? Is there a connection at all?
I can talk about that a little. It's a cool
Yeah.
question. So, when you're looking at your HRV, most people don't understand what it is. So, when you breathe in, your heart rate increases. As you breathe out, your heart rate decreases. This pattern is called your sinusoidal arrhythmia. And
Ah.
what your HRV is the difference between the fastest heartbeat on your intake and your slowest heartbeat on your exhale. So that's
Mm.
why extended exhales actually make you more relaxed because your heart rate is slowing more and more and more throughout the course of your exhale. And so an extended
Ah.
exhale is actually going to increase your heart rate variability. Now, when you're super stressed, you have a very shallow change between your increase and your decrease of your heart. You're probably breathing shallowly and your heart rate is going in parallel. So when you're super stressed, you just see like a tiny wiggly line for your heart rate variability. When you're relaxed, you have a great increase and decrease, a great like up and down, a nice, beautiful sinusoidal wave that goes with your HRV. And so that's how you see the increase in your HRV when you're relaxed. In terms of the correlation with meditation, as you do the breathing through your meditation and relax your body and take your mind away from stressful thoughts, you are typically inherently increasing your heart rate variability. The correlation is not perfect one to one, but as you start to relax the mind and the body relaxes through deep breathing, you also see a beautiful change and shift in your HRV. And when you look at long term correlations for HRV, you see that people who are depressed, for example, have very low HRV. And people who are not depressed and in healthy states have an increase in HRV. So the kinds of effects you get with meditation also parallel the kinds of things you might see in somebody's HRV.
That's awesome. Is that a device or is that a biofeedback tool that you may add to the Muse at some point?
So with the existing Muse, Muse 2, and our new one, Muse S, you're able to see a graph of your heart rate. So you can actually see your heartbeats, like the increase and the decrease. You can visually see your HRV. We don't give you an HRV calculation
Like a
because there's
score?
actually a little bit of a controversy in the scientific field around how accurate instantaneous HRV is. So the pure science says that you need long-term calculations of somebody's heart rate in order to really get their HRV. So we've steered away from a specific HRV calculation, but you can see it in the graph. Like you can see actually what's going on in your heart, and it's quite amazing. You can see when your HRV is good and when it's short.
Very cool. What other little kind of nuances with the device you can share with us that we could apply to improve our health on top of what you already mentioned so far?
Sure. So we have a new device that just came out, Muse S. And for those of you watching the video, it is right here. It is a soft, comfortable form factor, and the module just pops off. You can wash the band. And we made it specifically for people who want to track their brain overnight and help them to fall asleep. So we found
Mm.
a lot of people were using Muse to help them fall asleep, but you'd have to take your Muse device off when you fell asleep. So we made Muse S super comfy so you can just fall asleep with it on. And we give you these beautiful things called sleep journeys, guided sleep journeys. They're guided meditations that lull you into sleep. And you also get a soundtrack that's actually built from your body that's designed to entrain you into sleep faster. So you might hear the beating of your heart like the chirping of crickets in the soundscape, or
Nice.
the movements of your body like the lapping of waves. You're literally hearing your own body. And then what we do is, as you start to get into a rhythm and slow down a little bit, we actually slow down the soundtrack in a way that's designed to entrain you to fall asleep faster. And so it's a super beautiful experience. And then towards the end of this year, we're releasing comprehensive EEG sleep tracking. So you'll be able to see all sorts of details about your night's sleep, even, complex details like the amount of sleep spindles you had.
That's really cool. I think anytime you're trying to teach someone to develop a new habit, especially when they don't have a lot of confidence, it's important to have a coach or someone to kind of pat them on the back or give them encouragement if they're doing the right thing, or feedback if they're doing the wrong thing. And I think the benefit of this device, it really provides that little bit of a meditation coach over your shoulder to give you a pat on the back, or give you feedback if you're not on the right track. So I think it's really beneficial, because if people can do it and feel confident about it, they're more likely to make it part of their kind of day in, day out habits.
Absolutely. That's literally why we built this. Whether you're somebody who's never meditated before and is just like, what's going on? Or you're an expert meditator who wants more insight into your process, this is a device that's literally like a little coach or a guru inside your head, encouraging you, showing you what's going on, giving you your feedback so that you can know and you can improve.
Oh, cool. So how does this work? So you put the device on. Is there any way you can do it while we're on live on the podcast here?
Not while holding my microphone simultaneously.
That'd be amazing.
So this is the Muse here. It slips on just like a pair of glasses.
Great.
It then would connect to the app on my phone. So here is, I don't think you can see it. There's too much glare.
Right there. There you go.
There's the Muse app. And so inside, that's my notification that I have new content available. Inside the Muse app, you have meditations for the mind, and there you can set the length of time that you'd like to meditate for, the soundscape you'd like to use, what if you'd like guidance or not. We also have meditations for the heart, where you're hearing the heart like the beating of a drum. You can actually see your own heart rate variability and what it's doing. With more meditations for the breath, for the body. We have an entire section of guided content. Here, let me open that for you, where we have literally hundreds of meditations for stress, anxiety, sleep. We say if you've got a problem in your life, we've got a meditation for that. So whether it's performance, workplace, etc., you can go in there and really find the thing that you're trying to work on or is bothering you, and get a meditation and guidance and insight to help you in that process, with or without your Muse.
Love it. Totally love it. I'm really excited to try this out, get my own device going. That's awesome. We'll put a link here for the listeners, choosemuse.com/welcome, choosemuse.com/welcome. And the discount code will be welcome10. We'll put the links below. So if you guys are driving or you're active, we'll put that below so you can access it later. Ariel, is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with right now?
Really the understanding that if you've tried meditation before and you're like, I don't know, I'm not good at it, whatever, put all of that behind you, because literally anyone can meditate. It's not about whether you're good at it, whether you feel like you did it well or not. None of that matters. Meditation is just a process that you practice a little bit every day. And when you do it, you will start to see the fruits and the benefits in your life.
I love it. Is there anywhere else people can get more information about you or the device?
At choosemuse.com/welcome. There's lots of information about the device, the neuroscience behind it, and more.
Awesome, Ariel. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
My sincere pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.